guys, welcome to Just Be Creative. I'm your host, Joshua. Today we're going to be doing a book review today. And guess what we're at today? We're in my living room. Yeah, I know, it's amazing, right? Anyway, it's good to see you guys. And we're in my living room today, so we're going to be doing the book review.
Talk slowly, the way you can hear.
Thanks, Mom. That was my mom. Sorry. So anyway, we're going to be doing the book review right now. And this book review is on Tom Sawyer. The original Huckleberry film. So just let it get that. Oof. Oh, we're good. So let me set the timer. And we're off.
He had just been sold a runaway slave, and that he was going to take him back to St. Petersburg to claim the reward. "Where is the slave now?" I asked, as innocently as I could. Maybe I know him. "Oh, just tied up in the barn. He ain't going no place." I told Aunt Sally and Uncle Silas I was tired, so that I could go up to the first floor of the farmhouse and watch out for Tom arriving. Sure enough, a few hours later I saw Tom walking up the track to the farm. Chapter 16. I ran out of the farmhouse before Tom's Aunt Sally and Uncle Silas could ask me where I was going. I had to get to Tom before he got to the farm. Poor Tom looked horrified to see me. For a second, I completely forgot that for all Tom knew, I had been killed back in St. Petersburg. Once he was absolutely certain I wasn't a ghost, and I had managed to explain everything that had happened these past few weeks, Tom let out a low whistle. "Well, Huck, I sure am glad you're alive," he said. "Sounds like you've been having all the adventures without me." I shook my head. "I'd gladly trade you some of those adventures, Tom. So, will you help me free Jim?" There was nothing Tom liked more than a plan, an adventure, and having fun, all of which he was going to get if he helped me. Tom decided to pretend to be his brother, Sid, who had come to surprise Tom and his aunt and uncle. It wasn't hard to convince Aunt Sally and Uncle Silas. Tom and I knew each other just as well as brothers. That night, we snuck out of the bedroom window as we had done so many times before in St. Petersburg. Jim was tied up in the barn with a flask of water and stale bread next to him. He looked utterly miserable. That was, until I tapped on the window. "Huckleberry Finn," he said, delighted. "What you doing here? How'd you find me?" "You're my friend, Jim," I said. "I ain't gonna leave you now, am I?" It looked as though the door to the barn was secured with one lock. It was real easy to break through, if you knew just where to kick it. But Tom wasn't so sure. "Where's the fun in that?" he said. "Jim should dig a tunnel, or set fire to the barn, or we could—" "There isn't time," I interrupted, annoyed. He was coming up with childish games, forgetting that this was Jim's life we were trying to save. Jim's freedom, and freedom for his family, too. "Help me kick the door. It will be easier with two people," I said. But Tom was sulking. The adventure wasn't fun enough for him, so I kicked the door myself. The door gave way after 2 or 3 good kicks, and we ran in to untie Jim. I have to hand it to Tom. He's great with untying knots. Then, the 3 of us were up and running. I didn't know why Tom ran with us. It was his aunt and uncle we were running from. He could have made up any old story and gotten away with it. But that was typical of Tom. The running was all part of the fun. And it was kind of exciting, feeling the night air on our faces as we ran like the wind away from the farm. That's when we heard the first gunshot. Chapter 17. We must have woken Uncle Silas with all the kicking. I was angry with Tom. If he had helped me instead of sulking, we could have broken through that door with 1 kick, instead of the 3 or 4 it took me. Another shot fired. I turned to look at Tom, but he wasn't running by my side anymore. Jim had disappeared, too. They were huddled on the floor, back down the track. As I ran to them, I saw that Tom had been hit in the leg. Jim had already tore off some of his shirt to stop the bleeding. "Jim, we gotta go," I said, anxiously. "Tom will be all right. That's his family. They'll take care of him." Jim looked up. He almost looked disappointed in me. "Your friend has been shot, Huck. We gotta help him." At that moment, I felt heavier and more tired than I had since living in the cabin with Pat. I knew Jim was right, but it didn't seem fair. Jim was going to lose his freedom for good, all because of Tom's silly games. I watched as Jim lifted Tom up and started walking slowly back to the farmhouse. I ran in front, waving my arms to stop Uncle Silas from firing any more shots. Tom, who everyone still thought was Sid, was taken straight to bed, and a messenger was sent to Aunt Polly back in St. Petersburg, telling her that her nephew had been taken ill. When Sally saw that Jim had helped Tom, she insisted that he was given some proper food and drink. Uncle Silas wanted him tied up again, but they tied him up in the kitchen rather than the barn this time. I knew it would only be a matter of time before Aunt Polly arrived and realized that I had been pretending to be dead and pretending to be Tom. I couldn't imagine the world of trouble I was about to get in from her and Widow Douglas. I was dozing with my head on the kitchen table when I saw Aunt Polly and Uncle Silas coming downstairs. I rubbed my eyes in disbelief as I saw Uncle Silas untying the knots around Jim's wrists. "What's happening?" I asked, panicked, thinking they were about to take Jim off someplace. "It's okay, Huck," Aunt Polly said. "Tom has explained everything." She sat at the kitchen table and took my hand kindly. "First of all, I'm overjoyed to see you safe and well. Everyone in St. Petersburg was just devastated when we thought you had been killed. It's the first time I ever saw Judge Thatcher in tears. I couldn't believe it. I didn't think anyone would miss me, except for Tom and old Widow Douglas, maybe." Aunt Polly continued, "Second of all, Tom's not been honest with you. I'm sorry to tell you that Widow Douglas passed away a few weeks ago. She knew that Jim didn't want to be sold, so she put it in her will that he and his family should be set free. Tom knew this before he came to visit this farm. It was the biggest news in town." I looked at Jim. I'd never seen a face so full of joy. "So, I'm a free man?" Jim asked, his eyes brimming with tears. Aunt Polly nodded. "Tom just admitted he didn't say anything because he thought it would be more exciting to free a slave, rather than free a man who was already free," Aunt Polly said.
"Stupid."
I should have been mad at Tom, but I was just so happy for Jim. I was also feeling sad about Widow Douglas passing away, but mighty proud of her too, for freeing Jim and his family. She was one of the kindest souls in St. Petersburg. "Does that mean I'm going to be sent back to my pap?" I asked, sniffing away the tears that had started falling from my eyes. Aunt Polly shook her head. "I'm afraid he hasn't been seen since the flood." At this, Jim put a hand on my shoulder. "Your pap won't be troubling you no more, Huck," he said. "You remember that house in the river the day after the flood? That room I wouldn't let you go in?" I screwed up my face trying to remember. It had only been a few weeks, but so much had happened. "Yeah, I remember. Your pap was in there. I'm sorry for not telling you. I couldn't find the right words," Jim said. My head was starting to spin. I hadn't slept right in days. The world seemed to have turned on its head. Jim was free, and Pap was dead. "So what about me?" I asked. Polly held my hand tighter. "You can come home with me and Tom, if that's what you want," she smiled. Epilogue. I saw Jim just one last time. He came to take his family away with him to the north, where they could make a real life for themselves. I like to picture them in a nice house, with Jim going off to work in the morning, coming home to his family every night. I moved in with Tom, his brother Sid, and Aunt Polly, and I even started liking school some, too. But I always keep a raft and a bag of supplies hidden by the banks of the Mississippi, just in case I ever need to go on another adventure.
That is amazing, isn't it?
Glossary. St. Petersburg, a fictional town made up for this story, in the real-life state of Missouri. Mississippi River, the second longest river in the USA. It runs through 10 states. Steamboat, passenger boats powered by steam. They typically had paddle wheels at the back. Raft, a floating platform.
That is an amazing story, isn't it, guys? I mean, it's like the story was really incredible to me. I mean, the fact that Mark Twain made this story and he was pretty incredible at making stories that people will relate to. Almost everyone will relate to that story. So anyway, guys, if you like this video, let me know in the comments and let me know what you think of this. Let me know what you think of this video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Bye, guys. See you next time.